You are listening to Mixel Podcast. I am Micaela Olareta,
And I am Jason May Cordova.
your host for today's podcast. Are you looking for a podcast who will motivate you to study more?
And can make you inspired to study harder.
Then this podcast is for you.
In this episode, we welcome Mrs. Marinelle L. Pagaran as our guest, and we will be giving her a few questions, like maximum of 10 to be answered. Will that be alright with you, Mrs. Pagaran?
Yes, of course.
But before we start with the provided questions, I just want to ask you, Mrs. Pagaran, how are you feeling?
I'm great. How about you?
Well, I'm good. Thank you for the concern, Mrs. Pagaran. So, let's start with a question. What do you do or what are you up to these days? Are you a working mom or a hands-on mom?
Hey, Micaela. Before I'll answer your question, I would like to thank you for having me in your podcast interview. So, I worked as a registered nurse for 4 years in different clinical area. But when I get pregnant, I stop working due to my medical reasons. And right now, I'm considered myself as a certified hands-on mom to our lovely baby boy because I want to cherish every moment and memories with him.
Next question. What is the biggest challenge you are facing in your role right now, and how are you tackling it?
Okay, the biggest challenge or role that I'm facing right now is being a mom. As a first-time mother, we all know that it's not easy to become a mother. Taking on the role of mom comes with a ton of new tasks, new responsibilities. There's so many adjustments, physically, mentally, or emotionally, and even pressure.
Okay, let's proceed to the next question. What does your morning routine looks like as a wife and a mom?
As a wife and a mother, my morning routine is to cater all the needs of my boys. I prepare meals and do some household chores.
Do you have a plans on working again with your profession? Or you want to be a hands-on mom until the time says so?
As of now, I want to be a hands-on mother to my baby because, as what I said earlier, that every child needs mother's affection and guidance. My work can wait, but my time spending with my child is precious and more important for me.
Did you always want to be a nurse since you were a kid?
Okay, this is the funny thing. To become a nurse is not my first choice actually. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a flight attendant. But when I saw some nurses in the hospital, I really admire them so much for being so passionate and dedicated to their work. I also love watching them wearing white uniform with a white cap. That's why I decided to enroll nursing that time. In short, I just love their uniforms. Okay.
What is the piece of advice you could give to someone starting out in your career?
Okay. My piece of advice for you guys is just focus on what you're doing and love your career.
If you could tell me one thing you regret the most, what is it?
Regret? I think I don't have any regret because I'm so blessed and thankful for what I have right now.
If you could go back and give your 18-year-old self an advice, what would it be?
An 18-year-old self-advice? Maybe gain a self-confidence and be yourself. Yes, that's it.
What is your biggest failure and achievement? And what did you learn from them?
I think my biggest failure is when I got pregnant at an early age. Actually, not an early age as what you think, like 18. I was 22 at that time, and I got my college degree, my profession as a registered nurse, and I had also a work that time. But because I told my parents that I will help them after achieving my profession, I failed because I got pregnant. I know that they were disappointed that time, but when they saw their grandson, their joy cannot be measured. Disappointment leads to great blessings, and that leads to my greatest achievement. Why? It's because I became a mother, a strong mother. I'm not the woman who's afraid, but a woman who's strong-willed and ready to face life challenges.
Last question, Mrs. Marinel. If you have 3 wishes, what would you wish for?
Okay, these are my 3 wishes. My first wish is good health for everyone, especially for my family, my relatives, and to all my friends. And the second one is I wish to end of suffering for all. No more hunger and illness for every people in the world. And my last wish, I wish all of the people a success in every good thing we do.
Thank you, Mrs. Pagaran, for allowing us to interview you.
It's my pleasure.
So, that's all for our episode for today on our Mixel podcast. But before we end, we would like to extend our gratitude for accepting our invitation to be our guest for today and for sharing her experiences as a mom, a wife, and career woman, Mrs. Marinel Lumud Pagaran. We hope everyone has learned something from it. Listen for more episodes coming here only in Mixel Podcast. Bye!